I recently saw The Wild Robot and it might be one of the best animated films I've ever seen. And I just need to mention how incredibly refreshing that is in our current world. It almost feels impossible to go into a theater and see a movie that's actually new. It's been mainly sequels to prequels to spin-offs and basically everything in between. And that's not to say that I haven't been enjoying my time with some animated sequels. Just a few months back, Inside Out 2 had me in absolute shambles and can stand on its own as one of Pixar's strongest films. Then there's also Shrek 5, which I'm definitely going to be out the door to see on day one. Sequels do have a place in our world and are somewhat of a necessary evil if we want more original animated stuff, and it's a supreme blessing when these sequels are actually really good. I mean, who on earth thought that Puss in Boots: The Last Wish was gonna bang like that? I certainly didn't. And I'm someone who adores animation. The way stories are told through this medium is unshackled, free of any creative limitation. If you can think it and put it to pen and paper, then it can exist. So anytime I hear about a new animated banger, it's immediately on my radar. In the case of The Wild Robot, I avoided trailers for this because I had a feeling I'd eventually want to see it. I'm usually someone who avoids trailers at all if I even have an inkling that I want to see a new movie. Just the images alone, I knew that this was going to be a real treat with DreamWorks on the wheel. And they're currently in good faith with me right now. Once again, who on earth thought Puss would be that good? Most of what I got from these images is the story of a robot taking care of a bird. Seems like a pretty simple concept, but how interesting of a film would that make? I've seen so many stories about a parental figure having to step up and do what they need to protect a younger life. There would be some shenanigans that would bring these two together, and maybe a moment where I would cry if they pull on the right strings. In the case of The Wild Robot, it was exactly that, but the execution of it all is what makes it truly shine. The story is simple, but everything surrounding it causes it to break through and become something so much stronger. And I wanted to talk about what I liked here. This video will feature minor spoilers to The Wild Robot. I'm not going to get too deep into the plot or specific scenes. I really don't think I'd be able to do this movie justice even with including spoilers. Plus, I do think this is something that you guys should see yourselves. You can let me know in the comment section below. What was the last movie you left that left a profound effect on you? Left you in the theater seat pondering your life and how you're supposed to walk out of that experience. And while you're down there, please be sure to hit that like button as it helps grow the channel. I'd love to cover more movies and TV show content in the future, so your support is very much appreciated. When talking about movies though, I have to mention how important movie theater etiquette is to me. I am the firmest believer in fully being able to immerse myself when going into a movie in the theaters. There's nothing like sitting in the dark with massive speakers getting ready to consume an uninterrupted experience as the filmmakers intended. You get me a large popcorn and a large Coke and I'm good to go. And I feel that in recent years, movie theater etiquette has kind of been thrown out of the window. It's incredibly rare for me to attend a movie in this day and age without having someone on their phone the entire time. Whether it be texting or recording or whatever, I'm a firm believer in turning off your stuff. Most recently, I went to go see Aliens Romulus in theaters, and I had to tell someone a total of 3 times to put away their cell phone. Being in a horror movie where darkness is a big part of the experience and seeing the little glowing square in the corner of my eye is not a vibe. I had to threaten to get employees on him to get him to finally stop. And I've had similar experiences with other movies in the past. In the case of The Wild Robot, we went on opening weekend on a Saturday during an evening show, which under normal circumstances I would not do for a family film, mainly because it's usually populated with children and parents who do not know how to control them. But I know better at this point, and I usually see animated films during the day when the kiddies are at school. So to see The Wild Robot on a Saturday, I was a little shook that my experience was about to be cooked. Fortunately, or unfortunately, depending how you're looking at it, my theater was super empty. I think we just had 2 other families inside and they were radio silent the entire time. And I think that's because this movie is something that's brand new. No franchise reception, and the movie just started releasing, so the word of mouth is definitely going to start to grow. I was so incredibly surprised to be able to see this film without any distractions. Thank goodness. If you're one of these movie talkers or have your phone out during them, I hope you're on the bad side of the trolley dilemma. Anyway, The Wild Robot tells the story of Roz, a humanoid robot designed to help out those who ask for assistance. As a shipment of Roz robots fall into a forest and there aren't any humans for Roz to assist. Eventually, Roz is imprinted on by a bird she names Bright Bill and is now responsible in helping them migrate. Now, there are 2 types of jokes in this film that caught me by surprise every time they showed up, whether it be the comments about the brutality of nature or the trials and tribulations of being a parent. The Wild Robot does not shy away in showing you some pretty messed up stuff within the first few minutes. Roz is constantly getting comboed by the forest around her, with comments about predators eating prey, the weak and small dying young, and how this is a eat or be eaten world. You'd think they'd tone it down for this being a movie for children, but nope, you get a lot of death in this movie. And I respect it so much for that. Even with the nature of this film only being slightly touched on, with the world seeming to be in shambles from ecological disasters. There's a few shots of cities being underwater and how all of these animals got to this small island, but it's never something that is told to us explicitly. You're able to just visually see how the world is impacted by looking at the backgrounds. Very little commentary about this world since it's coming from the perspective of the animals, and I think that's just wonderful. There's There's even a moment with a chemical fire that burns bright pink, and I had to look up why fire can end up pink. It's these little details that make the world feel so much more alive. As for the parental comments, there's so many good jokes that parents are gonna eat up, as the film doesn't get scared of pointing out how tough being a parent actually is, and whether or not the reward of being a parent is even worth it in the end. Roz even mentions the crushing obligation of needing to take care of Brightbill, and crushing obligation was the word that they used in the script. If I was a parent, I'd be laughing and crying all at once. There's so many good lines in this movie about the challenges of raising a child. This movie also knows how to take itself pretty seriously in its tone, and it's still pretty different when compared to other DreamWorks ventures. Other DreamWorks movies have this tendency to lean into certain jokes that are very much targeted towards the kids. The classic fart joke is just one to mention. Just those jokes are a little corny and are mainly there to make the kids laugh, but never at any point does the wild robot go down to these levels. It maintains a level of seriousness and the tone even when landing its jokes. Like, this movie feels like one of those Disney shorts where they open up for a big movie, but it was just given the budget to become a big movie. Heck, it's often that these short films stick out to me more than the actual full flick. It feels like Pixar could have made this. And that's not to discredit DreamWorks at all, as they do have movies that lean into their emotional messaging, but The Wild Robot feels like new territory for them when achieving a cohesive tone. And by the end of the film, I was a sobbing mess. So it succeeded in making me care about the relationship between Roz and Brightbill. Also, the end credits was such a pleasant surprise, and not because of any extra scenes they added or anything, but rather the reveal of the voice actors was such a shock for me. I didn't see much of the promotional material for this movie, but it has such a stacked cast, with Roz being voiced by Lupita, we love Lupita, and Fink, the Fox character that joins Roz and Brightbill, being voiced by Pedro Pascal. Like, these are some big name celebrities, and I could not tell it was them voicing these characters. The performances from everyone locked me into their character more. It feels more like solid casting rather than putting famous people to voice characters to help promote the movie more. And I haven't even talked about the visuals and the animation for this. I just adore that they keep using this hand-painted look for these movies. Seeing Puss in Boots 2 really utilize this art style and make it work, and to see it also used here was really nice. From the environments to the animal textures, they all have the look of a moving painting the entire way through. And while the action sequences aren't as flashy as Puss, the environmental work with the trees and the water, like, I could look at that all day. But the character models still have that very much DreamWorks look. If I had to say my favorite part about this film, it's the evolution of its simple premise. Like I said, I've seen tons of movies where a parent is forced to take care of a child, but it's all of these things combined that really makes the movie blow up in this way. It's not the most original idea for a film, but it's its execution that really makes it cook. It reminds me a lot of Gravity Falls in that way, which was an animated show by Disney featuring two children and their supernatural summer vacation. While on paper, this isn't the most interesting or original idea we've ever seen, but the characters, the world building, the comical jokes, and the in-depth characterization is what makes this one of Disney's greatest series. Simple story, but execution as if it was an Olympic gold medalist. The Wild Robot will be a movie that I'll revisit for years to come, and I'll always be singing its praises, because it's an original film in a sea of sequels. Hopefully this movie can perform well enough so we can see the second book adapted into a film, because I would absolutely love to see more of Roz's adventures. And yes, I'm asking for a sequel even though I'm tired of sequels. It's interesting to see this movie go from something no one has ever heard of to a conversation about being one of the best films of the year. It's so good to see a gamble on something original do well for the critics and well for myself. And The Wild Robot is one of the best films I've seen in a long time, and I hope we can return to this universe in a future movie. But yes, this is what I thought of DreamWorks' newest feature. I do want to make a lot more content for this channel, so if you have any requests on TV shows or movies you would like me to cover, let me know. I love animation, so that's definitely going to be on the top of the list. But thank you all so much for watching. Please be sure to comment, like, subscribe, and stay awesome.